G'day, welcome to the Making It Myles podcast. I'm Myles Clark, your beloved host here, where we talk a lot of shit about constructions, renovations, extensions, and the real estate industry through the lens of a building inspector. You wouldn't believe it, I'm a registered builder and a building inspector. Mind blown. Anyway, we've got two formats to the podcast. We have the Shed. The Shed is where we discuss all these things associated with construction and the real estate industry. And we also have the Journey. The Journey is where we dabble in a bit of personal development every now and then because I love it and I think it's good for you. So you can skip it if you want. If not, listen in. This episode is the Shed, okay? And we will be discussing asbestos in existing homes. What should I do? Right. Asbestos, as you probably are well aware, is a hazardous material that when you cut it, grind it, expose it to the world, or if it's non-friable, so there's lagging around pipes and it's already becomes airborne, all those particles get into your lungs, cause you issues, cause you cancers, all that sort of stuff. And it's been completely abolished and we don't use it ever again. Now, there's more products on the market that will slowly come into this area, like anything to do with silica, like concrete and bench tops and MDF. So that's architraves, doors, panels, a lot of other things. But we will get to that when we start dying, probably. So more or less, if you have asbestos in your home, there's a couple of things you need to understand. It is safe as it is. As long as you don't stuff around with it or play around with it or it's breaking apart or it's decaying, then you are safe. Now, that being said, it's still a great idea to get an asbestos audit done. What an asbestos audit done is they are specific guys that come around and they pretty much audit a house. So if I was doing a construction project, I would do an asbestos audit so I can understand any of the building elements in that property if they have asbestos in them. And then I have to do specific things in regards to safety to ensure that that is removed safely when we do any sort of demolition work, or if we're adding onto things and we start drilling into things, we know if we're safe or if we're not. Now, materials that can be asbestos, there's a massive broad range of it. The most common ones that you'll probably come across here in Australia is going to be the cement-looking flue that comes from the hot water system, or the heating unit that goes in the roof space of old properties, ceilings of wet areas in old properties, claddings of old properties. Sometimes you have the vinyl underlay, the vinyl glue underneath these properties, tile adhesives at some stages. There's a lot of materials that you can come across, and it is very common in regards to properties of that era. That era, I believe, don't hold me to it, was between probably the 40s, early 50s, all the way up to early 90s, okay? It was still selling, I believe, there was still I believe they were still selling a product and people could still use it for a period of time. So there's a massive broad range. If you're buying any sort of old home, which is obviously more than somewhat 15, 20 years old, there is a risk of it, okay? People were pretty aware of it coming through this sort of 70s and 80s and 90s and that sort of stuff, and then that's when it started to get eliminated completely. Now, the asbestos audit themselves, what they actually do, they'll come around to the property, they'll break off sections of the materials that they see suspected of asbestos and then go test it. That test will come back obviously positive or negative. I've had it in situations where I was fucking so convinced that there was asbestos under this vinyl underlay. So convinced. Told the builder that they need to get it tested. They did nothing about it. Fucking losers. So we got it tested ourselves. Found out it actually wasn't asbestos. Me and my boss, who is a builder as well, we were subcontracting for another company at the time. We were gobsmacked. But once we knew, we were sweet, crack on. No dramas whatsoever. Once they do all that, they can then understand what is asbestos and what's not. Then from there, I would highly recommend you label, and I've seen this numerous times, label the things that are of asbestos. You might have the eaves, and they just get like a little sticker that they slap up to say that it's asbestos, and just warns people that if any work's going to undertake here, be mindful that it's asbestos, okay? And it could be the roof cladding, it could be all these types of things. If you're not interested in having stickers slapped around your whole entire property, you can get a register put in place that you can put inside the switchboard, which is probably the most common place most tradesmen go to. And make, obviously, as the owner, you're well aware of it. You can have like a bit of a register of all the materials and locations where the asbestos is, okay? If you're doing any renovations and things like that, So once you're aware of the asbestos in the local area, then it's just about managing it accordingly, making sure it's sealed. You know, if it's starting to decay, there's no paint on it, whatever it might look like. And you can get advice from these asbestos guys. They're fucking very smart gentlemen, and probably gentlewomen. And you can get some advice from them as regards to best ways to mitigate any issues that can arise, or you can get to remove it completely. All right. Removing it completely, I thought was a very, very expensive process. But if you're doing construction work and you're already sort of doing demo, it's not as bad as I expected in reality. You need to notify all the neighbours of what's occurring. You got to notify WorkSafe of what you're undertaking. They have to supply us a clearance certificate once it's all completed. So once the asbestos removalist has done his job, they do a full clean, vacuum everything. Like they're outside vacuuming grass and things like that. And they got bags and everything's all done. And then you get a certificate to say asbestos is gone, crack on. Now, if you're doing any renovation works, I would highly recommend you best remove it, then cover it. It's very common that I do see a lot of people just cover over the asbestos sheeting with plasterboard and things like that. You're not solving the problem. You're trying to save $1 and you're making it fucking dangerous for other people when they do come in and start drilling holes into walls and fitting off things or cutting holes in the walls or whatever it might be, because you're just hiding the obvious asbestos that's in that local area. So to recap, if you have any asbestos in your property or suspect any asbestos, I highly, highly, highly recommend doing an asbestos audit so you are aware of the risks, aware of what's going on. If you're doing any renovation works, remove it, pay the people to do it. It isn't as expensive as you think, and then you should be setting yourself up for success. Okay, so if you found any value in this whatsoever, please like, please give it a share, please subscribe, please follow. Please do all the things, no dramas whatsoever. If you have any questions, you can put it in the Q&A section on the Spotify page. If not, hit me up on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok or wherever I am, which is all the places. And you can ask me there, no dramas, and I'll probably respond to it. I usually do a Q&A on Instagram as well to just help provide some value for some random questions. And you'll find me there. But other than that, we will see you on the next one.